So I spend Thanksgiving with my family, with my kids mostly. I have 2 little girls, and when you're a father, you are immediately the most important person in that child's life when their mother's not around. I've seen it like 100 times. Like my kids will come down the steps like distressed, and I'll be like, "Is mommy here?" And I'll go, "Oh, hey, anything I can help with?" And they'll go, "You don't know where mommy is?" And it breaks my heart because when my children were born, both of them, there was a switch that flipped inside me, and I wanted to protect these kids. And if I can't protect them when they hurt themselves, I want to make them better. And so when they fall down, I get down on one knee and I say, "Hey, come here to daddy." And then they just run by me and they kind of do like the sideline stiff arm on the way to mom. And it breaks my heart, but I keep trying. And a couple of years ago, the girls were 5 and 2, and the day after Thanksgiving, my neighborhood does this kind of get together where somebody hosts it and we all bring all of our leftovers to this one place. And it's kind of like a who's who in the neighborhood. Like you don't just get to come. Like if the invite comes in, you kind of feel like you made it, So we get all gussied up. The Kane family, we clean up well, So I got like my $80 Lucky Brand shirt on, and my wife's been in the bathroom for 2 hours, and she comes out and she's camera ready, and get the peanut butter off the kids' faces and magic marker off their arms. So I feel like we're looking. Like you ever feel like you look so good, like you're doing them a favor by showing up? Like that's how I felt. Like they opened the door and they're like, "Hey, thanks for coming." And I was like, "I know." So the people that were hosting, and they had just had a newborn baby, like within weeks, which I thought was very brave that they hosted a party right after that. But I do this like whenever I walk into a place, like I immediately assess it and I say like, what's not child friendly here? And their house was not baby proofed at all, which is fine because when you have a newborn baby, I think it's like a misconception that before the baby's born you have to baby proof the whole house. You don't. I mean, like you could literally like tape a fork to a newborn's head and stick it like right by a socket. It'll never make it there. You know what I mean? But I have a 2-year-old. Like this girl will do anything wrong that she can, and as soon as I walk in, I see everything. It's like a bad like hazard video. I'm like it's like a bottle of Drano with a cap off, and Mr. Yuck sticker. I'm like, what's that? And big coffee table in the middle, and then the bottom row of their shelf had all their expensive wedding china. And I was like, I guarantee you my kid will take out all of your family heirlooms before this night's over. So I'm sitting there, I'm talking to one of my neighbors, and the 2-year-old, Juliet, she comes up to me, and she's pulling on my pant leg, and she says, "Daddy, juice." And she's got a juice box. And I looked at my buddy, and I said, "Look at this, son. This girl knows what she's drinking. I like it, right?" And he goes, and she just keeps pulling on my leg. "Daddy, juice." And after a while, it starts to get a little annoying. And I'm like, all right, good. And on the 3rd one, tragedy strikes. I told you there was a big coffee table in the middle. When you're a parent of a toddler, table corners are your worst nightmare. It terrifies you. This is just a round glass table. It's just one big corner. It's like a glass guillotine in the middle of their room. And she's 2, she's clumsy, and she says, "Daddy," boom, trips over her feet, falls right. It was like slow motion. I watched her and I was like, "No!" And she's like, "Juice!" She goes in head first, right into the table, smack. And she doesn't just bounce off, like she kind of got stuck on it for a second. She comes off, and you'll hear people say like, in an emergency situation, you'll never know how you'll react until you're actually there. I don't like to use the word hero, because what's a hero, but I was really amazing. I was in the moment, I grabbed her up, I pick her up, and I rush her out before like a drop of blood hits the ground. I get her outside. And I don't know if you've ever seen like a head wound, like it bleeds a lot. So she's covered. I got the lucky shirt off. I'm sticking up against her head. But she doesn't know she's hurt. Like that's the beauty of a 2-year-old. They have no idea until her 5-year-old sister comes out. And she comes out and she goes, "Daddy, it's Julia." "Oh!" And the 2-year-old looks at her and goes, "What? Is it me? Is it what? Oh!" Now they're both like screaming. I'm calling for my wife. I'm like, "Babe, please come out here and help me out." My wife comes out and she goes, "I didn't see what happened." Oh. She faints right there in their front yard. All 3 of my girls are passed out now. Like, ah. So I gotta pick favorites. I take the little one, throw her in the back of the truck. I get her over to the emergency room, and the only time you'll ever see anybody kind of hop to it at an emergency room is when you bring in a bleeding child. Like, that's the one nice thing. They get some triage going. But then they just stuck us in this back room, and there's this little tiny room. We sat there for about 45 minutes, and after that time passed, door opens up, and it's my wife. and she just takes the baby from me. And she's like, oh, I mean, she's just doing the mom thing. I get it, you know, but I'm completely minimized at that point. Like now I know, like, oh, I've been here before. And then the doctor and the nurse walk in, and suddenly it's jam-packed. And the doctor says, look, only one of you guys can be in here. And I was like, oh, that's my cue. And so I head out, and I'm sitting out in the hallway, and I'm listening, and I can hear my daughter screaming. And it just breaks my heart, because I thought, like, all I want to do is be in there with her. And I'm out there for about 2 minutes, and all of a sudden the door opens, and my wife pokes her head out, and she says, hey, she wants you to come in. And I went, what? She want, get out of my way. I pushed her in, I grabbed my little girl, and I picked her up, and I put her head here, you know, and just for as long as I could, I sat there and I held her, and I did what I was born to do, and that's protect her for as long as she'll let me. Thanks.